Okay. Victorian morality and women. Queen Victoria was Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland from 1837 till 1901. Life in Britain during the 19th century was known as Victorian England because of Queen Victoria's long reign and an indelible stamp her character placed on the country. Victorian morality represents the moral of the people living in the Victorian time. It especially refers to the moral climate in general in Great Britain during the 19th century. Victorian morality can be described as a set of values that supported sexual repression, low tolerance of crime, and a strong social ethic. Due to the enormous impact and importance of the British Empire, many of these values were spread to the rest of the world. If you went to the beach, you had to go into special cubicles to change where you had to put on your bathing suit. Afterwards, you had to go to a separate beach for either men or for women. It was also very rude to show your arms and legs if you were a woman. Besides completely covering legs and arms, women had to keep the whole household running. The unmarried women had to socialize in their spare time besides keeping the household so they eventually would be married. Worst thing that could happen in the household was death of the father or husband. If the head of the household died, the poor woman had to work at a factory, as a schoolmistress, or as a prostitute. Children and child labor. Victorian child labor was the norm in the 18th century. There is no such thing as child protective services like we have today. The children were supposed to be raised very strictly and had to work and do the dirty jobs. They had to work long hours and under difficult conditions to help the family budget. The children were seen as less important in the society, and they had to start working when they were around 4 or 5 years old. If you were between 5 to 9 years old, you could work as a chimney sweeper, factory worker, sailor in the streets, and so on. There were children living with their families in the so-called slum houses. Slum housings were a consequence of overcrowded conditions which made housing in the city very scarce and expensive. Besides children living under these slum housing conditions, there were also many homeless children living on the streets of London. Homeless children lived by stealing, and because of that, they were seen as threats to the society. Even though the wealthy children may have been spoiled and had a much better life than the poor children, they also had an affectionless existence. The rich children were mostly raised by a nanny who would teach the child what was proper and what was not. Back then, the nanny was seen as a substitute parent.